So I think one of the places where you see this disjuncture between social media and mass media most on display is in Nigeria, where you've got a large portion of the country that's got substantial social media infrastructure. You've got a broad-based north that's never had any substantial media infrastructure. Some of them, the areas there that have never had a radio station, where they're getting that now for the very first time, or they've never had it. And there you see real divides within the country, people feeling alienated against each other and a real difficulty overcoming this. But in European nation states that have had broad-based mass media for a long time, we also see very high levels of national integration. We feel people coming together around those national categories. And I think that history isn't a coincidence, right? The same places that had these most robust mass media networks are also the places that first integrated as nation states, as effective states where people felt duties to the state as part of their nation, and felt a willingness to fight, die, and kill for that nation. So the greatest example I've seen of this, the one I mentioned before, is Radio Dandalkura, which is northern Nigeria radio station that is broadcasting particularly in Kanuri and Hausa, which are the languages used by Boko Haram to radicalize those ethnic minorities. You're seeing them create a new kind of public sphere, where broad swaths of Nigeria can all hear the same thing. And it's the first time that that's been the case. And it seems to have really dampened Boko Haram's effectiveness in the north. It's created an alternative mobilizational network, an alternative kind of public sphere. And it's even in sometimes transmitting negative things. They have had on their programs radical leaders, but in creating a conversation that a large group of people can all hear at once, it seems to fundamentally alter the incentives. So I think it's important that the impact of technologies is not determined by the form of technology, right? Cell phones are not inherently bad or inherently good. But I do present some evidence that says in the aggregate, this kind of infrastructure, cell phone infrastructure in Africa, seems to have had some negative impacts. It seems to have increased violence, especially in areas that don't have that radio infrastructure that helps pull people together. So it's not that the technology is inherently good or inherently evil, but I do think it tilts the playing field in the aggregate. It makes it easier to mobilize violence. It makes it harder to win with a message of unity. And in the aggregate, across all these countries and all these years, that seems to have had a systematic effect of promoting higher levels of violence. So I'd have to call that a bad thing. There's been some other good impacts, but I have to come down on the side of we need to think more carefully about how to limit the violence promoting effects of segregated communications media.